All right, everybody. It is 6:19 p.m. on Wednesday, December 17th. This is Amanda Lee Christian. I'm going to share some more things about my kids that God showed me. It was at a visitation and through the Holy Spirit, okay? It was at a visitation when I was in a rehab that I never should have been put into in Modesto, okay? They had their own little visitation house there on site. And me and another mother, it was a room called the Treehouse, okay? And our visitation, mine was 2 hours, hers was two, and they overlapped. The visitation did. And when my kids, and she spoke Spanish, she spoke English and Spanish, and she had two little kids that I think really didn't speak like a lot of English. I think they spoke more Spanish. But when my kids and her two boys the visit would overlap, we would have food and snacks and, activities and books and things like that. But my son, Paul, and it took us a few visits to realize this, like, oh my gosh, he's been interacting when you speak Spanish, because he would sit at the little table with her boys and she would be talking to them in Spanish, and my son Paul would be interacting with that as well, right along with them. And then when she would tell her boys to do something, Paul would do it. And then I didn't realize that at first because Peyton was there, so it was like we were all just kind of, looking around. Oh, Mommy, I want to draw a chalk, Mommy, or. But after a few overlapping visits, I told her, I said, did my son just do what you told your son to do? But you were speaking to them in Spanish? She says, oh my gosh, he did. And I said, speak to him in Spanish, like just to him. And so she started doing that, and he knew what she was saying. And, so, then we finally realized why he would be interacting. It wasn't because he saw what they were doing, but he understood what she was saying to him in Spanish, okay? Now, the first foster family that he was with, they did not speak Spanish. They were an African-American family, okay? Now, the reports have been made that my son is slow. Okay, he don't talk. He needs speech therapy and stuff, all right? The point I'm trying to make here is that you have to be spending a lot of time with someone that speaks a different language to pick up and understand fluently what is being said in that language. Okay, now my son was taken days after he turned 1, and my daughter was taken days. Peyton was taken days after she turned 3. Okay. Now God showed me as well that, now see, the foster parents, okay, they're reporting that my son don't speak that well, and he's gonna be 3. But I think what's happening is because they only speak English, and he probably speaks Middle Eastern or something, that they're not understanding that is a proof of being trafficked. Okay, that's proof of being trafficked. When a child can understand a different language that is not used in the home of where they're supposed to be residing, it is proof. Okay, and God told me that Peyton also and that Paul could actually speak Spanish. That is his language that he prefers when he does speak. And at the visitations, he would try to speak to me a little bit of English, but mostly I understood what he was saying because of his symbolism. He would show me things, like with stamps on paper. He would bring me things. He would point to things. And he knew that he wanted to talk, right? But he knew I wasn't speaking to him in Spanish, so how? And also, too, it explains the communication gap between him and his sister, and why she would get frustrated with him and he would get frustrated with her. Okay, that means that they were in separate houses, okay, not in the foster house. All right, this is proof and evidence, okay? And also, too, God showed me in the Holy Spirit that wherever my son was, my daughter wasn't, because she was picking up and learning German and Russian. Okay. And she knows how to say things and speak in German and Russian and English. So that is completely opposite of what my son knows. And none of these foster families are German or Russian. Okay. This is clear evidence of child solicitation and trafficking. All right. So you guys, I say it over and over again, pray for my kids. And I believe too that because it is a proven fact that when they're between certain ages, their brains will pick up on this stuff almost immediately. See, my daughter was 3, but my son was 1. So he's more prone to speak the language of wherever he spent the most time in, which is not supposed to even be like that, because when you're a foster home, they're not even supposed to stay out of your house one night, not once. Okay? And I know they didn't have no Spanish, a pa or whatever up in there, because that's not, abuela wasn't chilling out in there. You know what I mean? Abuelo wasn't there. Abuela wasn't there. They're different. It wasn't like that, okay? And there's no, German grandpa hanging out. There's no Russian grandma hanging out, okay? So, this is more proof and evidence of trafficking. You have to be subjected to those people and those languages for extended periods of time for kids to pick up on this and continually hear this being spoken to them, okay, and being interacted with them, okay? So, but if I told Shahid Khan, the CPS worker, this, he would just sweep it under the rug like nothing, It's not, they say to me, it's not a criminal court, so they're not going to do anything, right? And if you try to explain this to the local sheriff, he's just going to be like, whatever, we don't give a craps, we're just doing whatever, So, like, how do you actually, there's experts on this stuff, and they will confirm that this is a result of child trafficking. So, if you know any investigators that would look back through my dreams and the things that I've said, they're threatening me to take my channels down, and they threaten me out on the road. They say I got a gun to your head. People yell it out, and they got cops driving by my house saying "fuck you, Amanda," and stuff like that. And I'm scared, and my kids have been through enough, and it's just baloney. Right? It's baloney. But anyway, pray for me and my family, and I love you guys, and God bless.